The future does not arrive all at once. It bleeds in, filament by filament, through the mind like cold starlight through fractured crystal. I learned this long before I ever stood upon the wraithbone terraces of Ulthwé. Long before the runes began to whisper my name back to me in voices that sounded uncomfortably like my own. The galaxy believes the Eldar see the future as a clear road, laid bare from beginning to end. But that is a lie born of ignorance. What we see is a storm of branching light, a cathedral of possibilities collapsing and reforming with every heartbeat. And within that storm are futures that must be allowed to die so that others may draw breath. If this story draws you deeper into that storm, if you find yourself listening as though the runes are murmuring at your own thoughts, then lend this telling your attention. Let your presence be felt, as the Eldar believe all things are felt. By offering your mark of approval, by sharing this vision with others who walk the long road of the 41st millennium, and by remaining close for the stories yet to unfold. Even the smallest gesture can echo farther than you expect. I am a Farseer of the Asuryani, and my task is not to predict the future, but to choose which futures are permitted to survive. That distinction matters more than most humans will ever understand. Prediction is passive. Choice is an act of violence, subtle and precise, committed not with blade or shuriken, but with intention. When I cast the runes, I do not ask what will happen. I ask what must not. Each rune is a door, and behind every door waits 1,000 worlds screaming for permission to exist. The first time the burden truly settled upon me, I tasted copper at the back of my tongue, as though I had bitten down on fate itself. The chamber was quiet except for the low harmonic hum of the Craftworld's infinity circuit, a sound that never truly fades, only shifts like breathing stone. I scattered the runes across the wraithbone floor, watching them spin and settle, and in their settling I felt entire civilizations rise and collapse. A single rune, inverted, showed an imperial manufactorum spared from destruction, its chimneys still belching promethium smoke centuries hence. Another, lying true, showed the same manufactorum reduced to slag, its population offered up to the indifference of the void. Both futures were real. Both were equally vivid. Only one could be allowed to remain. Humans ask why the Eldar are manipulative, why we interfere and withdraw, why we strike without warning and vanish without explanation. They believe it is arrogance. They are wrong. It is triage. When you can see the galaxy as a living thing, hemorrhaging at 1,000 unseen wounds, you learn quickly that not every limb can be saved. Some must be sacrificed so the body endures. The horror is not in making that choice. The horror is knowing exactly what you are destroying. I have seen worlds where children, yet unborn, learn to hate the sound of their own names because those names will one day be carved into memorial walls. I have seen Astra Militarum regiments march beneath the Imperial Aquila, their boots striking stone in perfect unison, only for that rhythm to echo later as the pounding of artillery that will shatter an Eldar maiden world. I have seen Orc empires collapse into internecine violence, not because of our blades, but because we whispered the wrong victory into the wrong war boss's dreams. Each vision presses against my mind with equal insistence, and each demands a verdict. The runes do not tell me what is right. They show me what is possible. Morality for a Farseer is not a matter of good and evil, but of balance and consequence. When I deny a future, I feel it recoil like a living thing. There is a sensation brief but unmistakable, like the snapping of a tensioned wire inside my chest. That is the sound of a timeline collapsing. Somewhere a hero never rises. Somewhere else a monster never learns its own name. We speak often of she who thirsts in our darkest prayers, of the catastrophe that ended our empire and taught us the price of excess. That memory haunts every decision we make, because we know what happens when a people refuse to limit themselves. The future is not an entitlement. It is a privilege rationed by suffering. The Farseers exist because without us, the Asuryani would drown in their own foresight, paralyzed by infinite options until inaction itself became extinction. There are futures we refuse to look at directly. They lie at the edges of perception, shimmering with too much significance, like staring into the heart of a star. In some of those visions, the Emperor of mankind flickers as more than a corpse upon the golden throne, his presence bleeding into the Astronomicon in ways that feel almost aware. No Farseer I know will claim to understand what that means. We speak of it only as rumor, as half-remembered liturgy filtered through human minds and reflected back at us. To assert certainty, there would be madness. Even the runes hesitate. What we do understand is fragility. A single elder life can alter a sector. A single death can doom a craft world. I once denied a future in which a lone Skitarii ranger survived an ambush on a nameless moon. In the vision, that ranger would have returned to a forge world, carrying data that refined a targeting algorithm. Centuries later, that refinement would have guided a lance strike that pierced our void shields during a war not yet fought. The ranger died unseen in the dust, and an Eldar city still stands because of it. This is the arithmetic of survival. Do not mistake this for cruelty devoid of feeling. Every choice leaves scars. The infinity circuit carries not only the souls of the dead, but the weight of our regrets. When I walk its pathways, I sometimes feel those regrets brush against my thoughts like cold fingers, reminding me of the cost paid by those who will never know my name. There are nights when I hear the laughter of futures I have erased, echoing faintly accusingly, in the spaces between dreams. The galaxy is not static. The Necrons stir in patterns that feel wrong, like gears grinding without lubricant. Their timelines are stubborn, resistant to manipulation, their existence a kind of insult to probability itself. When a Farseer peers toward a Necron dynasty, the futures become brittle, prone to shattering without warning. One careless nudge and a cascade follows, collapsing not just one possibility but dozens. Against them we tread lightly, preferring to redirect other actors rather than confront the dead directly. Chaos, by contrast, is fluid to the point of madness. The ruinous powers contaminate futures simply by being observed, their influence seeping backward and forward through time. There are paths we refuse to consider because to look is to invite corruption. The runes grow warm in the hand when such possibilities surface, and we cast them away without regret. Some knowledge is too dangerous to entertain, even for those trained to bear it. Humans believe fate is something that happens to them. For us, fate is a substance we shape with bare hands, and it cuts deeply. The path system exists not only to discipline our emotions, but to prevent us from drowning in the very visions that grant us survival. A Farseer who lingers too long in the skeins risks becoming lost, their identity unraveling until they no longer remember which present they inhabit. I have seen it happen. Their eyes grow distant, their speech slows, and eventually they speak only to ghosts that have not yet learned how to die. There was a time I nearly joined them. The runes had shown me a convergence point, a nexus where countless futures intersected around a single imperial hive city. Billions of lives balanced on decisions so small they would never be recorded. A delayed Vox transmission, a misfiled data slate, a servitor that stuttered for half a second too long. I traced the threads obsessively, trying to find a path that spared both the city and an Eldar outpost hidden within the system's asteroid belt. There was none. Every future that saved the humans doomed us. Every future that saved us consigned the hive to fire and plague. In the end, I chose my people. I tell myself that is natural, that any species would do the same, but the justification rings hollow when weighed against the screams I still hear. The hive burned in my visions, its spires collapsing like candles left too close to the sun. I felt the heat, smelled the ash, heard the Vox grills choke with static and panic. When I withdrew from the skeins, my hands were shaking. The present was silent. The choice was already made. This is what it means to be a Farseer. Not wisdom, but endurance. Not omniscience, but accountability. We are blamed for our failures and ignored for our successes, and that is as it should be. If the galaxy ever truly understood the scale of what is taken from it in the name of survival, it might decide the price is too high. Perhaps it already has, and we simply have not seen that future yet. There are moments of doubt when I wonder whether the future resents us, whether the act of choosing creates a pressure that will one day rebound, snapping the skeins into a configuration no one can control. Some among the seer councils whisper that the future is learning, adapting to our interference. They speak of probability storms and blind spots growing where once there was clarity. These are not theories we share lightly. To believe them too strongly would be to invite despair. Yet even despair has its place. It sharpens caution. It reminds us that we are not gods, no matter how others might paint us. We do not command the future. We bargain with it, trade pieces of the present for fragments of tomorrow. Sometimes we lose that bargain, and worlds pay the difference. When next you hear of an Eldar strike that seems senseless, of an Imperial convoy destroyed, without warning, or a planetary governor assassinated, on the eve of peace, remember that you are seeing only the surface of the choice. Beneath it lies a labyrinth of paths, most of them now dead, their echoes fading into silence. Somewhere in that silence is the future that was denied so another might live a little longer. The runes are quiet now. They rest where I left them, cool and inert, as if innocent of the weight they carry. I know better. Soon I will cast them again and the storm will return, demanding judgment. Until the last Eldar soul fades into the infinity circuit. Until the skeins unravel beyond repair. This is the task we bear. We choose and the galaxy endures, never knowing how close it came to becoming something else entirely.